All right. Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be reacting to Egypt's new capital is an Ozymandian nightmare by the channel Adam Something. He makes a lot of very interesting content. I've wanted to react to his stuff for a while. So this is one of the maybe like a third thing I've seen from him. I've seen the one he made on Dubai last time. So let's see about this. I know that Egypt is making a new capital further like to the like the north west of their country, a little bit further away from Egypt. From where the hell is the actual capital now? Like Cairo, away from Cairo right now. A lot of countries do this. I know like Brazil made Brasilia, so maybe there's gonna be like similar problems in which nobody's gonna actually want to move to this place because I imagine it's in the middle of the fucking desert. So let's see. Um, so starting this video. And tell me if there's anything you want me to watch after this.
Hi, and welcome to the Big Epic Engineering channel, where we look at very big buildings. Today's subject is Egypt's new administrative capital, a futuristic metropolis built from scratch.
I mean, it looks like so fucking nice though. From afar, I imagine living in this like absolute desert hellhole would be absolutely garbage. I don't mean like the country is garbage. I just told like there's another video where I told you I legitimately don't like being in deserts. They're not fun. And I can't. I just absolutely despise living in them. So while this does look nice and the buildings look really great, honestly, I imagine that like living here is going to be absolutely awful. I imagine that even like supplying this place with the necessary resources like food and water and like, gas and what you need to actually live here is also going to be extremely expensive. So I don't know.
By the Egyptian government. We've all heard of big mega projects before, but what makes this one truly stand out is its sheer bigness. So what does this big, epic project entail? The Middle East's biggest mega cathedral, two big mega mosques, one of them Egypt's biggest, the world's biggest skyscraper,
Why?
and 2 dozen more, the capital...
Why does everybody build skyscrapers? Like, especially these ones that nobody can fucking use. Whatever.
Park, twice as big as Central Park, to promote social interactions. There's also the world's biggest military headquarters, aka the Octagon, a whole new district for all the Egyptian ministries, a smaller district with all the important institutions, a big area called People's Square with the world's biggest flagpole, and 2 theaters, and a big 20-lane road for military parades, plus a monument as big as a whole neighborhood, 2 new parliament buildings, a big new presidential palace, the biggest automated monorail system in the world.
But like instead of doing this, you should have like, I don't know, maybe try to find like desalination plants instead, because you know this river is the Nile River is like being used by everybody right now. So maybe you want more sources of water before you spend money on something like this. I don't know. That's just what I think.
World, and to top it all off, an American-style suburb. So this is Egypt's new administrative
Ew.
capital in a nutshell. Wait, what's that? This project is pointless at best and incredibly harmful at worst? But it's big. What? The sheer size and scope of a project alone does not make it good? But big buildings. Look at how big they are. Bigly big. They're so big. Huh? Oh no, what is this? Oh no. So much for algorithm-generated urbanism content. Looks like we'll have to do this the old-fashioned way after all. So Egypt's new administrative capital. It is a truly enormous undertaking by the Egyptian government, its scale only surpassed by its sheer stupidity.
What is it called?
When discussing this project, we have to ask ourselves, what is wrong with a dictator building a colossal vanity project in the desert from scratch in a country where the minimum wage is $127 per month? Let's find out. The new administrative capital was already a dumb idea, but with a few bold steps, they've managed to reach unprecedented levels of idiocy, where, in my opinion, they have managed to surpass even Dubai. I'm not exaggerating. Like the saying goes, smooth-brain dictator plus construction project equals dumb shit. And oh boy, do we have some of that here, courtesy of Desert Ceausescu. As the name shows, the project itself is meant to create an all-new administrative center for the Egyptian government, moving them out of central Cairo. This isn't the first of such projects. The new administrative capital is right next to New Cairo City, built by the previous dictator, which is a 500 square kilometer gentrified car-centric urban hellscape. So Egypt's current dictator, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, took a look at New Cairo City and thought, yeah, we can build something bigger than that, and so the new administrative capital was born. So let's go over the major parts of this project to explain why exactly they're stupid, or in this case, outright evil. First, the obvious stuff. Both the world's tallest flagpole and the world's tallest skyscraper, because fuck it, why not? The flagpole is of course nothing more than nationalistic dick waving. As for the skyscraper, if you've been watching my content before, you know why it's a bad idea, especially in the desert. To reiterate, there's just no good reason to build skyscrapers. The higher you build, the more engineering problems you have to solve, and the more expensive things get. Even if you're after the largest possible floor space, you're still better off with mid-rises. In my video about skyscrapers, I've illustrated how the Burj Khalifa, the world's current tallest skyscraper, could be outdone
Should I watch that? Is that a good video?
in terms of floor space by building 5 mid-rise commie blocks on its footprint. Otherwise, skyscrapers waste a ton of energy by virtue of being giant hunks of glass and steel. Their price per square meter is significantly higher than mid-rises, and they alienate people by complicating access to public spaces such as parks and so on. Now, there are some edge cases where you have no choice but to build skyscrapers on very small footprints and very close to each other because you simply have no available space. But, as you can see, for the new administrative capital, space isn't really an issue by virtue of it being out in the open desert. So why does Egypt want to build the world's tallest skyscraper plus 2 dozen more? The same reason as the flagpole, i.e. as part of the international dictators dick-waving contest. Dictators really do love building big dumb things for no reason. Germania is a good example, which was Hitler's renewal plan for Berlin that was mostly about redoing the city center with overly large buildings. One of them was a triumphal arch seen in the middle, which was supposed to be so large the Paris Arc de Triomphe would have fit under it. Hitler also envisioned a square, the Grand Plaza, which was supposed to be...
Yeah, I heard about this. Like, he wanted like this city to be like the center of, I guess, like European culture, which is whatever, you know.
350,000 square meters. Here it is overlaid on inner city Prague. Today's dictators prefer skyscrapers though, because that's what's trendy nowadays. Hence the new administrative capital containing 2 dozen of them, one of which is to be the world's tallest as mentioned. Between those skyscrapers and what appears to be 2 10-lane urban freeways lies the Capital Park, now called the Green River Park, the purpose of which is
providing shade and encouraging social activities.
Great! I love it when my parks provide shade and encourage social activities. Corporate bullet points aside, the real purpose of this park is to be 6 times the size of Central Park. That's it. And considering you're creating a 2,509 hectare lawn in the middle of the desert, the water consumption of this thing will be beyond belief, which I'm sure will do wonders for stability in the region. Ethiopia's casus belli for launching a water war will be Egyptians watering their lawn. However, skyscrapers, flagpoles, and disturbingly large parks are the least of our worries here, if you can believe that. Let's take a look at the residential areas envisioned in the project. In terms of urbanism, they are complete bonkers. The most obvious problem is that most areas are completely car-centric. That means blocks of residential buildings divided by large roads and 6 to 8 lane arterial roads with minimal to no public transit. The worst offender might be La Vista City here, which is an American-style suburb in the desert.
That is so ugly. Why would anybody want to like live in this? I don't know.
Next to a freeway bordered by an arterial road. Now, there are plenty of videos out there detailing why American suburbs are the worst thing you can build. For now, let's just say they isolate people socially, force you to be car dependent, services and amenities are far away, it's near impossible to have good public transit due to low density, it's much more expensive to drag out utilities to each house, and so on. Long story short, American suburbs are an urbanism nightmare. Back to Egypt, there's the R5 residential area, a district with fake French architecture. You know how primitive oligarchs and their children love ultra-expensive French luxury goods? The R5 is basically that, just on a whole other level. By the way, in the new administrative capital, the only meaningful public transit will be a high-speed rail line, and that's good, but they're also building a monorail line because, of course, they are. This one will cost $4.5 billion. But you already have the metro, it's right there. Why not?
Does Egypt have the money to make this? Like, what do they actually, like, what do they make? I actually don't know.
And just extend that. Why create a whole new system which has significantly lower capacity than a metro line? This whole new standalone rich people's transportation, neatly separated from public transit for the poor. What a strange coincidence, huh? Aside from the monorail, the whole new administrative capital is of course completely car-centric. Here we have a render of the R3 residential area, which looks like something a 6-year-old would build in SimCity 3000 with the money cheat on. It's all urban freeways. After all, public transit is for the unwashed masses, not the elite. Yes, if you thought all this was being built for the ordinary Egyptian, then I got some prime real estate to sell you out in the Sahara. According to this Reuters article, some 22 million Egyptians live in slums to this day, which is a quarter of the country's entire population.
Oh, wow.
Is anything being done to better their situation? In 4 years, the government managed to relocate 750,000 people from slums to social housing. At this rate, assuming the slums population won't grow, clearing all of them will take 117 years.
Oh.
Well, to be fair, the Egyptian government has more important things to spend on. The world's tallest flagpole isn't going to build itself. Also, low-income families from slums are often relocated into car-centric areas, which severely restrict their mobility. These areas are also heavily segregated from higher-income neighborhoods and risk becoming slums all over again. The issue here is, of course, the Egyptian government's socio-economic priorities, best illustrated by this picture of an urban freeway being built in Cairo, approximately 1 meter away from people's windows. Otherwise, a very telling example is the fate of the so-called Maspero Triangle, which is a slum area not far from Tahrir Square in central Cairo, home to some 18,000 people. In the 90s, under the previous dictator, the authorities forbade doing any repair work on the houses under threat of heavy fines. Soon enough, buildings started collapsing, often with their inhabitants inside. Thus, forced evictions began due to quote-unquote unsafe conditions. This didn't really stop until the 2011 Egyptian Revolution, where the Maspero slum became a hotbed for revolutionaries, providing essential support for those protesting on Tahrir Square. In the end, Egypt of course ended up with a different dictator who decided to finish the job and had the entire area bulldozed. 18,000 people were forcibly evicted so that a gentrified high-rise area can be built there. Hashtag gas the poor. And the new administrative capital is not much different in terms of social value. All this is being built not for the ordinary person, but for the ruling class and their allies. It is, in large part, meant to solidify the dictatorship by insulating...
I really don't know much about Egypt except for like the likely incoming water wars with Ethiopia, possibly Sudan. But I had no idea about any of this stuff.
The leadership from common people. It's significantly harder to overthrow your government when the
Wow.
parliament is 12 hours away on foot in the desert and you have to break through 20 military checkpoints to get there. The other half of the story is, of course, money. Within the company responsible for the project, the military happens to be a majority shareholder. That company is also responsible for selling and operating all that ultra-expensive property left empty by moving the government to the district they're building. The Egyptian military really is a state within a state. The dictatorship, thus the country, is held together by them. They are the true Egyptian ruling class. The ultimate symbol of this is the most ludicrous element of the project, the octagon. The octagon is the Egyptian military's new headquarters. In terms of military power, Egypt is on par with Italy, but apparently they need an HQ 8 times the size of the Pentagon, which makes it, you guessed it, the largest in the world. But the octagon is more than just a military headquarters. Around this abomination, there are housing complexes, public services, amenities, and so on, making the octagon a city within a city. And this is deliberate, of course. What we have here is a brand new castle for the Egyptian military ruling class. So in the new administrative capital, we have district for the Egyptian upper class, the political class, a castle for the military ruling class, a whole bunch of world's largest ex-bullshit projects, and a new palace for the dictator, all neatly separated from the riffraff. Meanwhile, Cairo's problems are numerous and severe. Aside from the aforementioned slums and general poverty, urban planning in Cairo is either non-existent or beyond insane. According to TomTom, it is the 30th most congested city on the planet. No wonder. Traffic management as a concept doesn't exist in Cairo. Traffic rules are a suggestion and nobody will check compliance. Crossing the road as a pedestrian is an incredibly risky maneuver, and not looking around beforehand is practically suicide. Also, did you know that Cairo, the 7th largest metro area on the planet, barely operates any traffic lights? Vehicle safety is a foreign concept. On the picture you can see an old 5-seater Soviet car packed absolutely full with children, because this is a school bus. Yep. According to the WHO, every year approximately 12,000 Egyptians die in road accidents, a number both insane and unsurprising. Meanwhile, public transit is woefully underdeveloped. For example, the Greater Cairo area of 20.9 million people is currently served by 2.5 metro lines. In contrast, the Paris metro area of 15 million people is served by 16 metro lines and 5 major suburban rail lines. There are some tram lines in Cairo, but the ones in the center were demolished long ago, and what remains is more of a rolling museum than a transit system. system. Beyond these, there's a municipal bus system that exists, and below that, the most crucial part of Cairo's public transit, minibuses. The website Discover Discomfort in their article described them like so. Riding a microbus takes practice. It's hard to get the right one, as you have to master certain hand signals and codes to be able to discern which to get. E.g., a fist takes us to our neighborhood, Dokki. It's hard to sit in the right place in a microbus, judging where isn't too close to the front so you're in everyone's way, and where isn't too deep so everyone is in yours. And it's hard to get off, knowing what to yell and when, and diving off in the 10 seconds you have to make it happen. As you can see, this is not a serious public transit system, more like a half-baked, haphazard mess that kinda sorta functions because it has to, just like the city of Cairo as a whole. And the leadership does not care. Instead, they're spending money on the aforementioned monorail between the new administrative capital and East Cairo, costing $4.5 billion. Imagine what could have been done inside Cairo for that kind of money. But instead, they opted for a shiny gadget bomb bullshit project because spending money on Cairo would serve the poor, while the monorail will serve the upper classes. Other parts of this project are just further insult to injury. The unknown soldier monument is just a handout to military-adjacent real estate companies. Also got all the giant Aang symbols all around. It's about as subtle as the character design in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And here I'd like to take a brief aside and voice my overall disappointment with quote-unquote urbanism content on YouTube. I hate how many content creators almost never examine any project beyond look how big it is. It is my belief that urbanism-related content should be more than just bamboozling people with big numbers and CGI. You should look at whom the project is built for, how it affects people, i.e. its socio-economic costs and benefits. In lieu of that, you're just jangling keys in front of a bunch of babies, and also get 100 million views in the process. In general, if you can replace your audio with a Donald Trump-level self-aggrandizing bullshit speech with stock music and not lose much of the information value, you might want to rethink your video. Look, I know skyscrapers, I love skyscrapers, many of my best friends are skyscrapers, this is the best skyscraper ever constructed, ever, billions and billions of square feet, most tall in the world, bigly built, big business activities, very big business. At the end of the day, urbanism is more than just building some big, shiny buildings. It's the built environment we humans are meant to inhabit. A building on its own is just a heap of bricks, metal and concrete. Its intended purpose, the kind of people it will serve, its location, accessibility, those are what make a building worth talking about. But very often these quote-unquote urbanism channels only focus on the physical object and some easily marketable numbers, nothing more. Sure, the new administrative capital looks impressive, lots of big buildings, big buildings, but that alone tells us nothing about what it really is. A dictator's bullshit vanity project at the expense of tens of millions who are forced to live in poverty for decades to come. But it didn't have to be this way. Egyptian authorities could have put their traffic management in order, create a workable municipal bus system, build new metro lines, more affordable housing, and they could have improved Cairo's chaotic urban planning. Instead, they chose to build a $40 billion monument to hubris and sociopathy, brainlessly celebrated by people who ought to know better. Welcome to Egypt's new administrative capital, where buildings are big and brains are smooth. Following my desert mega project tradition, I'll leave you with a poem. This one is titled Ozymandian by Percy B. Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
So yeah, this video brought up a lot of good points. But unfortunately, the people in power in pretty much every country absolutely refuse to do the bare minimum and actually make a country that, you know, people can get around in, you know, people can actually live in instead of bullshit like this. But yeah, so yeah, thank you for watching my video, and have a great day.